It's good to be free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty. Folks, welcome to the podcast. Below the belt. Below the belt. Who vex lose? Who vex vex? If them jagabats vex, the vex. If the trench crappos vex, the vex. Who vex lose? Who vex vex? Welcome to our international podcast, Below the Belt. I'm your host, Sherry Duncan. I'm so privileged to be here with each and every one of you. Folks, I couldn't ask for a better set of people to lime every day with, like Koana Mingo and Beatrice Selby and all the other fantastic people. Like you guys, like each and every one of you, including some of the trench crappos and the jacobus. Nah, them terrible, you know. But they know themselves. They know themselves. The Jacobats know themselves. The trench crappos know themselves. Folks, I learned very, very early. It's how people call you, you know. It's not what people call it. It's what you answer to. No, sir? Lauren Jones? No, sir? It's not, sir? It's not what people call you. It's what you answer to. So be careful. Be careful. Be careful what you answer to. When my wife says sweetheart, I say present. When she says hon, babes, I say present. Sometimes you say this cross here. I said, it's not people call you. It's what you answer to, folks. It is a beautiful day here in downtown Georgetown, where we host our international podcast, Below the Belt. Folks, we've been watching so many issues. We've been watching so many situations. We've been watching some personalities as well, two of whom we have with us. Below the belt today, we are so privileged to be joined by the beautiful, if it's plural, do you say beautifuls? After the S, or beautifulies? By the Honorable Member of Parliament, Jurita Vanessa Finance. And we're privileged to be joined by the beautiful Odessa Primus. Odessa is an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, a comedian, a mother, a wife, a daughter, and somebody headache. And I'm privileged to have both of them with us today. We're discussing COVID-19 locally, a Mabaruma father, a dead child, and the PPP healthcare system. That's our topic of discussion today. Among other things, we can touch some other things, Gloria Chester, and Alexis Arthur, and Dawn Barnes, and Andrea Paradise, Marva April. We can touch some other things. Patricia Kissoon. We can touch on some other issue. We're going to touch some other issues as well. Who vex lose, guys? Who vex lose? Them boys and the friends in Caricom fallout, man. The PPP boys and the friends in Caricom. You see how money part comes into play. People is fallout. People you think is friends, don't be friends, no. And the PPP like the toad and the scorpion. You know, the scorpion asks the toad to carry him across the pond. Scorpion said, the toad said to the scorpion, I know you can sting me, you know. And you want to take the chance and carry you over. Right? Use a bad egg, use a trench crapple. You like a trench crapple. The toad, they want to carry the scorpion over. But humanity kick in and he take a chance. And just before you reach the other side, the scorpion drop a sting in him. He said, but I thought you promised me you won't sting me because I'm helping you to go over the other side. He says, it's my nature. It's my nature. I can't help myself. It's my nature. That's the PPP, you know, it's in the nature to stab you in your back and to cut your throat. It's the nature of the PPP. So that's what I just do to the Caricom brothers and sisters with this local content business. They throw them under the bus. The people want equity. They think it's decent people are dealing with. They want fairness. But not these jagabats here. Not these trench crappos, not these scorpions we got to deal with. So the Caricom people finding out slowly who they are dealing with. Who they are dealing with. But a sliver of brighter news. The DPP has recommended that the cop, the SWAT team rank who shot Orrin Boston, that SEK1 businessman, should be charged. This was the advice of the DPP. And so they are moving forward where that is concerned. They are moving forward, folks, where that is concerned. And we're being told, I'm gonna pick up some of this out of Saarbrück News, And we're being told that the police constable who allegedly shot and killed S.C. Quibble, businessman out in Boston, some months ago at his home, was yesterday charged with manslaughter and granted $1 million bail. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing that as today's date. Was today charged with manslaughter and granted $1 million bail. Sherwin Peters, 32 of Amelia's Ward, Linden, appeared before Magistrate Esther Sam via Zoom at the Georgetown Magistrates Court 5. He was not required to plead to the indictable charge. The matter was adjourned until February 1st. So the name of the rank is Sherwin Peters. He's 32, and he has been identified as a person who has shot and killed Orrin Boston. And we're delighted to see some movement where this issue is concerned, folks. Delighted, really delighted to see movement where this issue is concerned. A lot of stuff happening on the ground here. And we've been trying to be good stewards and to chronicle and to collate and to curate all of this information for you guys. How are things where you are? What are you guys having for lunch? Some of you probably gonna be dining at some fancy restaurant for lunch, while the rest of us here catching with tail. While the rest of us here catching with tail, folks. Good to see each and every one of you joining us on the live today. We could not ask for more, guys. Could not ask for better company during our live broadcast than you guys who show up day after day, week after week, month after month, and now year after year. Claudette Clark, Andrew Cuthbert, Koana Mingo, Shalon Chester Philly, Magnell Barrow, Karen Black. My God, so many fantastic folks. Tiny Van de Cruz. Yep, Lauren Garnett. Folks from all over the world, like Gordon Stobie, Karen, is it Barley Rochelle, Patricia Graves, Andy Goodman, all of you beautiful, fantastic folks. Pace and power in 2022. Good to have each and every one of you. And we're following this story as well as our subject of discussion today of this family in mourning in Mabaruma. And report is told that on Thursday, a family was made to walk from Mabaruma Health Hospital, or rather the Mabaruma Regional Hospital mortuary, to the cemetery where their deceased child, who died as a result of COVID-19, was laid to rest. Yep, it was hot, scorching sun in Mabaruma, and for the want of basic transportation by the health authorities, who, according to reports, seem to have refused to help in any way. And so this government continues to show just how heartless it is. And then they can come tomorrow and tell you, we care. So that's the subject of our discussion today. COVID-19, a Mabaruma father, a dead child, and the PPP healthcare system. Folks, this could be any one of us, you know. This could be any one of we children. I've got some photographs we're going to publish later on with children packed to capacity in a school bus. And they can say we care. But when they get to school, they space them out nice and take out some photographs and they post them on the Ministry of Education website and say, yes, look what we're doing. But getting to school, they don't get COVID already. Packed to capacity on a bus. And that is the nature of how we're conducting ourselves during COVID-19, with a regime that breaks its own COVID-19 rules ever so often on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. This is where we are. Folks, as I said when I started, I'm privileged to be joined by the fascinating Jurita Finance, Member of Parliament, and the equally fascinating and beautiful Odessa Primus. She's an entrepreneur. She's an influencer. She's a comedian. She is an philanthropist. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing this time with us on our podcast, Below the Belt. Welcome.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank
It's
you,
good to
Sharon.
be here with you. It's good to hear you, and in the land of the free, I must say. It's good to have you in the land of the free. I know
It's good
that
to be here. It's good to be here.
your your viewers missed you tremendously yesterday on the podcast. I was there following persons, and they were all there supported and rooting for you every step of the way. Persons from Canada, persons from the UK. The comments keep coming in, and my phone was ringing off the hook. So it is wonderful to have you back on the podcast, and hopefully you don't have any other disturbances moving forward.
What Jurita said.
I was prepping for the podcast yesterday when I heard men knocking at the gate. And I said, the disrespect. They couldn't even wait for the podcast to finish. It was a disrespect for me. At least they could have waited for us to complete our podcast. That's the least they could have done. Such disrespect.
Yeah,
We're not
that would
having
have
it.
been right.
Jurita and Odessa, welcome again. This story we're covering, um, it is heart wrenching, especially if you're a parent, especially as a parent. It took me it took me becoming a parent to understand what an investment a parent is. You invest in a child, from before that child is born, 9 months before, if you go to full term, as they say, and then after. This child that was laid to rest by this family was a year old, and I feel it in my bones because my youngest son, recently turned a year in November. Since then, a year old, and you can see him discovering language. Well, he discovered his feet, right? We wanted him out of our hands, but like we regret them now. He has discovered his feet, he has discovered his hands. In all the books, tearing off the cover, trying to read, we can hear him discovering himself and, finding the wonders of the world. So we understand that this child had a consciousness, and then COVID-19 struck internationally, it struck locally, and in the hands of this administration, COVID-19 has ran away and left them, and like they give up. So all of us have been struggling with these challenges, struggling with this new way of life, and then to have to bury a child who you've invested in and who you care for and love. And I don't know if it's the sight of that father holding that box with the remains of his child and heading to the burial ground, navigating the streets there in a hot Mabaruma, sun. It was so heart-wrenching. But a parent has got to do what a parent has got to do, irrespective of what the government is doing. The ineptitude and the incompetence of the government administrating this healthcare system. A parent has got to do what a parent has got to do. Joyita and Odessa.
Sure, if I can go
Go
first
right ahead,
here.
Joyita.
I I looked at the photo, and as a mother, it's something to really break your heart. You bring a child into the world, and then you have to bury a child, and under such conditions, it's inhumane. And when we look at I look at the photograph, and I'm thinking to myself that if I am in a situation as that, anybody any parent in a situation like that would not even have the physical strength to walk, more so to have to bear the lifeless body of a child to take to the burial ground. So my heart goes out, prayers went out to the family when I saw that photo, because it takes immense strength to get through something like that. And that's from just looking at it from a very micro level, directly as it relates to that specific family. What we need to acknowledge is the fact that this is not just this family. This happened because of mismanagement. And this mismanagement is not only at the level there in Mabaruma. This is a countrywide situation in which we're looking at, that is a manifestation of mismanagement at the highest level, mismanagement of the COVID situation altogether by the government, the Ministry of Health. That's why a no confidence motion was put against him in the National Assembly, and mismanagement by the director, the person that gives directives from the highest level in this country. How is it that at a time like this, when COVID-19 is rackling our nation, there is no system in place that could have took that child's body from the hospital to the burial ground? It is completely ludicrous. It's unacceptable. Nobody, no family should ever have to go through something as horrendous as that.
Odessa, totally agree
I
with you, MP Finance.
right. If I could jump in here too.
Go ahead, Odessa.
I looked at it for the first time. I saw it on your show last night, Sharon, and it was difficult to even look at the photo, let alone be conscious of the fact that this is the body of this man's child that he is bearing. I even after the show try to think of what the dialogue was between this man and the medical personnel before he decided that, you know what, I have to fetch this box myself. I think that, that would have been an interesting conversation to listen to. Um, to even wrap your mind around the fact that you are saying to somebody that we have no means of transportation to get this child's body from here to the ground. Having to come to the consciousness that you have lost your child, and all the hurts that come along with that. Now to having to carry this child. I even thought of if it were a bigger child, had it been a 10-year-old, this man would have had to get this child to the gravesite by whatever means necessary, and that is quite unfortunate. Especially, I mean, clearly he couldn't be somebody who's rich, because more than likely he would have had his own transportation and all these sorts of things, and it sends the message of the plight of the poor people in this country, to know that this is the place that we have got to come to, where we have no facilities, we have no services available to support families at such a time. And it's not just even in a pandemic. People died before the pandemic started, and should the pandemic ever end, people will die after. So there's no provisions at all made for families, and that is very sad. Mabaruma is a predominantly Amerindian community, and I
Mm-hmm.
see, very many, um, lots of talks about projects in these communities and so on. And here we have something as basic as this, that we were unable to meet, we were unable to provide for those families, and it's unfortunate. And I'm hoping that the family is compensated as well for having had to go through something like this. Good grief.
Yep. 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 But Odessa, is that enough? I noticed in this situation here where this house fell down recently, killing a child. I think the child was 6 years old or 13 years old, and the mother. The house is so old that they're living in. They're in such abject poverty. The house fell on them and killed them. Then somebody comes afterwards with $1 million for the other family members to construct something proper, right? But we have already lost two lives. What is the value of a life in this country? You know, what's
Well,
the value of a
I don't know
life?
that it could be considered enough, because I mean, there's nothing that could cause that father to unlive what he went through. But what I'm saying is, at this point, um, you can't undo that. He should be compensated. But I'm also additionally saying that families should not have to go through this. So there should be preventative measures put in place, to ensure that, that families don't have to go through what this gentleman and the mother of the child and whomever else that was part of the photo, because I see they had probably about three or four other persons present there, to prevent these things from happening. The minister of health, I don't know how, if it's possible for him to do a worse job. I don't want to say it isn't. Who knows? Um, but at the end of the day, these guys come out and they make statements all of the time, and then you see something like that happening, and we don't hear nothing. There is no explanation to this. There's no nothing. It's like, okay, so it's there, it happened. Yeah, move on. And this cannot be that the way we continue. Guyanese have got to come to a place where, regardless of who the government is, you have got to hold people accountable who hold these offices. This is by no means acceptable, be it for a parent or for a non-parent. Because at the end of the day, when I looked at that picture, I mean, as a parent, you're inclined to I guess attribute all that's going on to yourself and to your family and all of that. But it's a hurtful thing as a human being too, to see somebody else having to go through something like that. It is hurtful, it is painful, and it should never have happened. You could imagine in the oil producing cooperative Republic of Guyana, somebody got to fetch their own child to the ground to bury that child. I mean, come on, man. Come
Mm-hmm.
on, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we have the temerity to say, oh, we have oil here and have to live like this. We might as well not have no oil.
Mm-hmm. This is where we're there.
But Sherry, to add to what Odessa is speaking to, you mentioned the fact about the house that fell down, killing a woman and a child, and then someone came with $1 million to for the family to build another house. And I read that story with a house that fell down with the mother and killing the mother and child, and then there's a situation with the father having to physically carry his child's body from the hospital to the cemetery. And of course, this is rightly said, it can't be a rich person, it has to be a poor person because he doesn't have his own transportation to do that. And I believe that sometimes we try our best to speak on these matters, and I don't know what it takes, what more it will take for it to hit home to the masses in this country, that unless the government is putting policies in place to break the cycle of poverty which the majority of Guyanese is living in,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
we're not going anywhere as a country. So the minister with responsibility for finance within the office of the president could go and say what the hell ever he want to say about the numbers and economic growth. I'm preparing my debate speech from since last week, Sherrod,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the numbers I've been looking at it, when he could go to the public and nice it up, I'll break it down for the people.
And we can talk about that just now. We can talk about that just now because
You
politics
know,
is always
it's
local.
ridiculous.
It's always local. Um.
We have to speak about these matters because poor people are suffering. Poor people are not getting anywhere. Houses falling down because
Absolutely
being this
right.
woman and child living in poverty all the time. These people
Absolutely
are
right.
poor people,
Absolutely
and we
right.
are not getting anywhere as a people. But guess what? Buildings are being thrown up. We have reports of minister land grabbing his land here, there, and everywhere because that's what they do. They take the resources from the country that is meant to be distributed to get people out of poverty, and they spend it themselves on themselves, enrich themselves. That is the level of corruption
Yep.
that
Yep.
this country is experiencing right now.
Yep. Let's circle back to that policy issue, Odessa and Drita. Drita, you raised the issue of solving these problems at a policy level. It's not throwing a hamper in somebody's chest, a half pint of split peas and a quarter pint of oil, and think that can solve all of their problems. But it's meaningful policies that can have meaningful long-term impacts on families and communities in this country, which is the best way for us to go. Now, for folks who are new to the issue of this house that fell on this mother and child, this mother and her 6-year-old daughter, I'm confirming a 6-year-old girl. This happened on the 5th day of January last week, Wednesday it was, when this house fell on them in where they lived in Bonasika Creek, Essequibo River, Bonasika Creek, fantastic little community there. And the mother has been identified as 35-year-old Samati Chandra. She's a farmer by trade. And her young daughter, Christine Sugdio. Those were the two persons who met their demise as their home fell on them. Wasn't an earthquake, wasn't a big storm of epic proportions by any means. The house was just old and just give way on top of both of them. And then the government shows up a couple of days later, right, with $1 million to the family. And I remember the grandparents saying, the grandmother said, we can have problems for a little while because there's quite a few of them left. Quite a few of them. That problem got solved now with $1 million in hand. Right? That problem got to be solved at a policy level. How do we take people out of abject poverty in this country and bring more people into the middle class? And we don't even have to go till to Bonasika Creek in the Essequibo River. We got instances right on the coastline, right in the national capital city where we are. Right? Because right here we there, and we shifting back to garbage city. For 5 years, we held the garbage at bay. Services worked for 5 years in this country. Them boys come and everything collapsing. The house collapsing, the woman, the garbage system collapsing, everything collapsing, the economy collapsing. And then we have this situation with this father and this 1-year-old with the health system in Mabaruma. If it done collapse, it collapsing. Clearly it's not functional. When you cannot get a little service, like fetching your child with some little vehicle provided by the hospital or the mortuary to the burial site, a father has to throw this box with this child's remains on his shoulder and meander through the streets of a hot Mabaruma to find the cemetery. And as you rightfully put it in the context of an oil-producing republic, it seems the more oil we producing, oh God, is the more poor we becoming. The World Bank reported in one of our programs projected double the GDP growth. You were the resident economists. Double economic growth. It was projected at 15%. They're saying it's going to double that. We thought they got it wrong. It's really double food prices. Doubling food prices in 2022. That is what we believe they really were predicting. And somebody pointed out in social media, it seems the more oil we find, oh God, is the more food price going up.
Because the government is not these things, Sharon. Let's not try to run away from the fact. This is happening because the government is putting absolutely no measures in place to actually fight what is going on, to stop it. They're only concerned about policies that is going to make themselves richer. That's all they've been doing. They haven't been looking at any matter that is basically micro to them. Whether or not poor people eat is very micro to their interests. And that is the truth of the matter. So they don't have the time of day to look at that because they're busy negotiating multi-billion-dollar contracts to split the money between them and their friends. So obviously the increase in price of food doesn't bother them one bit. You know what they're thinking, Cher? Let me tell you why these people operate like that. Because they believe that they're going to wait till close to an election and then they're going to line people up and give them a $50,000 if so much, and then they can go and vote for them. That is why they operate like that, because that's the belief they had. They have this idea that they're going to drag people down to the level that they're literally on their knees with an empty cup in front of them begging for food, and then they're going to pass and drop some rice in the cup, and then the people are going to say, oh, thank you, master, and they then go and vote for them. That is why they continue to operate like that. I've been saying, we spoke on several programs before, we in the ring in the evening, and I keep telling people, The country cannot claim economic growth if the poor people in this country has not experienced not one single increase, not 1% increase in the standard of living of themselves and family. The standard of living of people are on a constant decline right now. It's a steady decline because you can't afford to eat the things that you were eating prior. Your salaries ain't going nowhere. They're right there. Don't worry, that trashy 7%. It didn't move anywhere when in comparison to the inflation in the basic food items. So forget about that. That's like non-existent. Salaries not going up, food prices going up, your standard of living is decreasing. So don't come telling people that, oh, and we have a projected economic growth of this and that. No, it's bullshit. I mean, I gotta call it out for what it is.
Yep.
This is below the belt. This
Yep.
is not in the ring.
Yep.
So it's not acceptable. We can't go ahead and tell people nonsense like that. And again, I can say, and I have the data to support. I love telling people when I speak, I don't talk things I don't know. We have the coalition, have the data to support. When we talk about inflation, we can preach about it because the 5 years the coalition was in office, the inflation rate was right. It basically was constant. I think at one point it was at 0.5, basically no inflation for an entire year. How do you beat that? And whilst the inflation rate was at 0.5, Sherrod, persons were getting an increase in their salary every single year. That was a direct relationship to make from the government. That is direct policy measures from the government that made very well sure that the standard of living of Guyanese was on a constant rise every single year. This administration has done everything counter to that. And that's the situation that we're in right now.
Correct. Respect and manners for that. Respect and manners. Oh, that's your thoughts.
I'm Sherrod, I'm just looking at one of your comments, and somebody was saying, if it's the government's responsibility to provide housing and so on for all of the people and these sorts of things. Well, yes, and the when you listen, of course, as you would have mentioned earlier, about the just a handing out of hampers and these sorts of things, about the society that we have become, it says a lot, because if you're unable to provide the basic needs for your family, then how on earth are you supposed to get by? And of course, this is, people try to say, oh, at the end of the day, it's you who have to work. But then if the environment does not facilitate for you being able to save and to get things done, then you're basically wasting time. Because giving a man $1 million to build a house, I don't know what kind of house he building with $1 million to begin with. And if I'm already living
a house that gonna fall down on you later on and kill you.
Right, but if I'm already living in abject poverty, that my house is probably shaking for quite a while, and I'm unable to do anything about it, I don't see how giving me $1 million, and I'm not saying that $1 million is not going to be helpful to the family.
He ain't spending the whole million on the house. He ain't spending the whole million on the house. Are you hungry? Yep. I was going there. I was coming there. I was coming down.
Are you hungry and taking $1 million and going buy wood for house?
The same people who say you can't eat road, you can't eat house.
It's not a well thought out something. I mean, you are a government, for crying out loud. You have the ability to get the necessary resources and people to help build the people house back completely. You understand me? I am a small fish in this big pond, and I could help somebody to build a house from scratch by getting support from other people as well. So more so a government. Y'all got all these equipment and so on at your disposal. Get the people to go there, dig out the place, do whatever it is that got to be done to help this family. You get them $1 million, hold this, figure yourself out. If you're going to buy blocks, whatever, put them blocks down there. When you raise the rest, you finish off. That's basically what you're telling me. They could have done that. They would have done that in the first place. Nobody would not have had to die before they can move out from this situation.
Well, the thing is, Odessa, and I I have a bit of a bias when it comes to the whole thing on when it comes to people dealing with policies to eradicate poverty in our country. And I always say, and I don't have any apologies for what I say. I always say that people that have never been poor shouldn't attempt to make policies and try to um treat issues of poverty, because they don't understand a damn thing about what they're trying to fix. Once you have not been in a situation or close to a situation, it's hard for you to comprehend what the persons are going through. And if they actually wanted to help, what they should have done is actually gone to the family and check and see what they do. The woman was a farmer,
Yep.
what's going on, why you
Yep.
couldn't afford to do this. And I would be very interested to know if that family actually received any money from the $10 billion that was supposed to go to aid the farmers that were affected by flood and so forth. They, they're not looking at providing jobs, provided any stable source of income for the people. You can go and hand them $1 million. It will be going directly to food. That's a God truth of the matter. It will go to food and whatever, probably funeral expense,
Yep.
because I don't know if anybody was helping to cover funeral expenses and
Well,
so
the
forth.
government gonna jump in now and hand over a check with something. Watch them. Watch them. Folks, welcome
But
to the
but
podcast Below the Belt. Those of you who are now joining us, welcome to our podcast Below the Belt. Who vex lose? Who vex? Trench crappos and jagabats is vex easy. You understand me? They're in my feelings, Johnny's. They're gonna vex easy. But who vex lose? We have this
me-
comment here from Heather Rowe, and she says that, you know, it could never be functional when everybody inept. This government can never be functional. Everybody inept. Install, right? Is the installation camp suffering from chronic emotionally distress syndrome. That's what she says here. Heather Rule. Right? Everybody emotionally stressed and distressed in this country. They think it's only some of them. Right? I'm privileged to
but
have as
there
my guest.
she's right on the money when she with the comment. But I want persons to actually people know, but I'm just gonna say it, that the very fact that the terminology, emotionally distress, has been thrown around for it's been abused and by members of the PPP administration when they want to chastise, violate freedom of speech
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. The very fact that that is happening is something that needs to be addressed, because when it comes to matters of mental health and all of those things, it's a very serious matter altogether. And I believe if I can say this, when I saw the Minister Charles Ramsden talking about being emotionally distressed, I think immediately thought he should have been stripped of his post, because he would have been incapable to function as a minister in office if he has mental health issues. And it's a very,
Mm-hmm.
very serious thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people could laugh it off how much they want, but when you publicly go out there and you're claiming that someone speak about you, causing you emotional distress, then you are literal. You don't have the mental capacity to function as a sitting minister, and that is the truth. We can't just allow persons. And Sharon, I'll just throw this in now, because you were before the court. Well, not the court. You were at the CID yesterday because you caused someone emotional distress too. And the first thing I was thinking, and I hold no apologies, I think that I personally said that I was going to go and just scroll through your comments and make very well sure that I start keeping a database of persons that cuss you out on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis.
Mm-hmm.
And we should just report everybody.
Yep.
Since
Yep.
it's a reporting segment we're in,
Yep.
someone cuss you, report them. And
Emotional distress.
especially the ones that come on the program and talk about Chronicle $5 million, which is
Emotional distress.
absolute garbage. That is literal defamation that you could sue people in a court for.
Emotional
So
distress.
when we no, I'm very serious about it, because if we are to go down that road, then CID wouldn't got space. But I know for sure they would not have the capacity to deal. I think they will be under some serious emotional distress, because they will not be able to deal with it if every 2 minutes somebody climbing up his step to report that they're emotionally distressed. And that's where we have to take it, because you are out here all the time. You're speaking up against wrongdoing, mismanagement, corruption. Persons cuss you out all the time, but you're not supposed to be bothered by that. But then you have to go and sit down there because a person feels bothered by something that they're claiming that you say.
Yep. Folks who are now joining us, I'm privileged to be joined today by the Honorable Director of Finance, Member of Parliament, and the one and only entrepreneur, the one and only philanthropist, Odessa Primus has joined us as well today. And we're talking about this issue of COVID-19, the Mabaruma father, his dead child, the 1-year-old, and the PPP healthcare system. Folks, things tight in this country. Things tight in every quarter. Things tight. And we stumbled across a gentleman venting his frustrations. Of course, you don't got to take our word for it, because the first thing you hear, Duncan is the FC. He's opposition. Is the opposition. Oh, that's his PNC. She's
Who
opposition.
that's
you know, yeah. The people paint with all kind of brushes, right? They look at your skin, look at your hair, and say, "Well, look at your hair." They can't look at your hair recently because you got long hair now. And say it's PNC, right? That's how they do it here. They put you in a bracket one time. But a gentleman was on social media venting his frustrations. I don't know which camp you can put you in. One Ramlal Rupchan, and he talked as an entrepreneur, a businessman, how things tight. They call it crab man. How things tight in this country. I want to play for us what he said. If you're taking we word for it, those of you who are watching us internationally, how things are in this country, listen to this man, Ramlal Rupchan. Listen to how he described things. His language a little colorful, but we below the belt here. You can appreciate it.
Pressure boss pipe. Pressure boss pipe, boy. Umaninza Guyana de underwater. Oh, Skonderang. Sorry. Umaninza Guyana de under pressure. Walk. Bangameris $400 pong. Trout $400 pong. Oh, you go buy them sell back by. I just come and tell about this, buy me little fish and mix with me little crab and sell. Thing that just raise, thing just double, the price just double. Oh, con partner. But you could do now. You don't squeeze out the fucking juice from the fucking guy and these people. The beer hawks left, what you gonna do with the orange? We can't eat the fucking hawks that we can eat. Pressure boss pipe partner, pressure boss pipe. When you put up a fucking 20,000 this week, next week you put up a 10,000, other week you put up a fucking 15,000 end of the month, you gotta still buy around 20,000, but somebody will pay the fucking bill. Right now, like water bill, more dear on fucking like bill. And then if you get cut off, me walk little crab. Now crab, man, is walk little crab. That's it. Me do business. Me gotta pay commercial. On 7.5, you gotta pay 15 fucking thousand. But just put a man. That's nonsense, man. Me no people try rob you back your fucking back. Them a rob you in front your face. Now look the goods gone. What is contact gonna do here, buddy? Light bill, phone bill, NIS, fucking tax. Ration. Look fucking thing that raised $2 more. Everything is just double all the time. People got dead a fucking guy and guy is fucking strong. Not by that fucking set up. Them a take his cut and stay easy. Oh partner, you hard. You need to do some adjustment. People got to live. I mean, this everything here, gold, diamond, every cut you think about right here. And I these are suffer. People can buy them yes, but if they don't get any money, how the fuck they gonna get it? Yeah. How can a nice farm? You got 7,000, 10. You got 7,000, 10,000, 5,000. So pressure was pipe partner. Pressure really is something that I adjust. People got dead his con. Think that just raise $100 more or $500 more, you know. Everything just fucking double. How you getting money? How you go buy a punk bag and make no $400 sell? People say me rob them. Then me have a fish and tell them how much. They go cost me. They go want fucking kill me. Oh man, you need to do some adjustment, Mr. President. Things need to adjust. You just can't wake up just from bram 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 all this thing happen. Things take time. Me not no politician now fucking crap man I sell, but me know he hard. He really, really hard. Imagine me do business and I feel that. How much the whole day you think you fucking sell? 120,000, 25,000. If you sell on 40,000, you're a big fucking man. But now the guy sell 40,000, a whole 40,000 you want. What do you expense? What to the things that you buy? What do you work? What to your food? What to your gas? You might left with a little fine that yes, but at least you work for that. But that's what you can't make it in this life right now, partner. Pressure bus pipe. See you ain't no pressure bus pipe. Just for you, you know, later. Oh my ninja, oh my ninja. Diana de underwater.
Yep. Pressure bus pipe. Oh, that's a pressure bus pipe. Jurita, pressure bus pipe in Mabaruma. Your thoughts?
Sure. If there is one thing that is absolutely correct, it's that the cost of every single thing is going up, and it's not a $20 and a $10. It's 100, 200, 300, 400. I mean, what is it? What is it? You can't even go and get a proper bottle. Aisle now is double the amount of money for the aisle and all these sorts of things. And, as would have been mentioned earlier, I think Jurita mentioned earlier, that you have all these increases, but not people's salary. So when you have cost of living increasing significantly and people still have to get by with the same money that they would have been getting by with all the time. It says where we are, and it clearly signals where we're going as a country. And it's sad we're in a sad state, but as Guyanese, we are very good at finding coping mechanisms, and that's why I think that people think that we are right. No, Guyanese good. We can laugh and we can have a good time. But you got to have a grand time so as not to set up your pressure there.
Correct,
But
correct.
the thing is about it, what is the coping mechanism, right? And I hold no reservations when I say that what happens in this situation is that you see an underground economy pop up, an unregulated underground economy, very dangerous system altogether is gonna pop up. And that is that is where we are being pushed as a people. That is where the lack of policy measures to reduce this income disparity, to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. All of those things lacking in this country is going to do absolutely no good for us, and then we will see the ripple effect of it not being there. We will see the number of crimes reported, especially petty crimes. Let me just be very, very clear, especially petty crimes. This person getting robbed. Every street somebody getting robbed right about now. But I understand now why people getting robbed, because they're more concerned with who calling people names. So they're not on the streets patrolling to see who is robbing who, because they're too busy out there listening to shows and so to make sure that somebody don't call somebody some name, right? So you on the street with somebody sticking you up at gunpoint at knife point, that's not nobody's interest. Right, so that is the state that we're in right now as a country. We are getting worse by the day. Nobody could point me in any one situation in which a poor person has been doing better since this administration took office. It doesn't exist. That system doesn't exist altogether, and that's the fact. That's the truth of it. But the guy that you just played, shared, is absolutely correct, and I love to hear when ordinary people speak out,
Ramlal
because
Rupchan.
these are the people that we are representing. He is just one of the hundreds of thousands, right? And what he is saying is absolutely correct, and I love his terminology. Pressure bust pipe, because That is what's going to happen. The PPP knows that they know it. That's why they're going to come after persons like you, because you're out there and you are bringing the news to people. And I dare say, even the persons the policemen in the force, persons that have to answer to certain commands, and so they know it's true. They sit and they listen and they know that these things are true, because them themselves are in similar situations. Their salary ain't going nowhere. They have to go out to work, put on their uniform, and get out there. And at the end of the day, they're the quality of a meal that they have to feed to their children is not any better. It's getting worse, right? So they understand that it's true and all of that. So I know that there is a vast number of the men and women in discipline services that is not against, but the majority of them knows that this is a fact. But we know what is going on. We understand the directives and all of that. So we're not going to go down that line. But the man is correct. He's talking about the fact that he can't even buy something, the fish, and sell it back because nobody buying it from him. You know, I go to the market the other day and I literally told the guy, I feel like I'm being stick up. I feel like this is a stick up when you telling me the price of these items. You know, it basically telling me, well, either you feed your children or you don't, you know. So you're out there as a mother and you're trying to figure out, oh, well, you got to forego this for that, you know, and oh, we can't afford this. Oh, probably can try this one next month. We can do this month, and next month we can switch it up a little bit and see if we can make some sense out of the madness when we have the officials and the small class of elites in this country touring and having a blast and parading the streets. You know, you're coming down the road, the police escorting some of them to work. That is the level of crap that we have to face whilst persons are starving in this country. You know, persons, we got to get these people out of there. That is the only way that this country is going to be saved. They need to come out. If they are in there for too long, I don't. Share the situation in Venezuela. Let's just look at that for a moment.
Just think about that. Indeed, we're in a bad
Just
way.
think
We're
about
in a
it.
bad way. That's the whole thing.
Who has more oil, by the way?
Venezuela has the largest reserve in the
That's what I'm
world, right to
saying.
the top. The
That's what I'm
largest
saying.
reserve. And yet we're speaking about the fact that the people, and I want persons to understand this, you know, it's saying oil. Venezuela have the largest reserves in the world. And yet we have the
Correct.
situation in which persons we have so much refugee coming across the border from Venezuela that they're up there, they're living on a makeshift tents and all kind of nonsense because the situation, their persons going through the garbage, children on the street, you can see their bones, you know, it's just printing through their skin. Let us look at that as an example. It's not about the resource that you have, you know, persons. It's about the people that manage those resources. The people that are currently managing the resources of our country is not concerned about distributing it to the masses of Guyana, and that is the fact that we are facing here today.
Fantastic. As we wrap up, ladies, final thoughts on where we are. This healthcare system, this PPP that professed to care, but look what's happening. The man is saying this is a businessman, right? Mr. Rup, what was his name? Let me make sure I quote his name correctly. Ramlal Rupchan, the father in Mabaruma, this businessman, crabman, Ramlal Rupchan, this issue with this house falling on these folks there in Bonasika Creek. People saying you need some adjustments in this society. Things aren't going right. You need some adjustment. That's what crabman said. Prezi, you need some adjustments. What do we tell the Guyanese people today? You know? What do we tell our Guyanese people?
Well, Sherrod, it is evident where we are, and it is quite evident where we're going. When we have to in 2022 be carrying the body of our children in the sun on our shoulders, when houses have to collapse on families before anybody could recognize that they need help, when the ordinary folk, when the poor people be it selling crab or fish or some sweeties on a stand, and you have to be crying out about your inability to provide for your family, about your inability to apply an honest trade. It speaks volumes. And even I remember mental health being mentioned earlier. But I feel like as a people we're not in a nice place, and we should be concerned that mental health could become a major issue. But we have very many single parents who are unable to provide for their families, help coming from God knows where.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of people may have family overseas who can send a $2 every now and again to help them. But what about the man who is trying to make an honest dollar, but he can't because of the government's failure to do or not to do things because of our poor healthcare system. And Frank seemed to be okay with just getting upset when people speak about the lousy job that he is doing. But it's not about getting upset. It's about recognizing what needs to be done and getting it done for the people you're there to serve. You're not there to extol your ignorance and behave foolish in a public office. And so I think it is time that the government recognize the voices of the poor people. The man who's selling crab and singing and expressing how he feels. To the man who has not verbally said anything but spoke in silence quite loudly by carrying that box on his shoulder. It is about time that the voices of these people are heard and their cries are heard and are answered by the government. You have a responsibility to the people. And unlike the two of you, while you're both politicians, I am not a politician, Sherrod, but it hurts me as an ordinary citizen because I understand what people are going through because I am right there with them. I am right with going to the shop, to going to the supermarket, to going to the market, and seeing the prices of things escalating tremendously. And what do I do? How is my income different? How do I then provide for my family? What are we coming to the place where your children will look at you and say that they're hungry, you can't provide something for them? That is a disaster. That is a problem because parents are going to want to provide for their children by any means necessary, and that is going to be a problem for all of us. And so I'm hoping that the cries of the poor people are heard and that they are answered, not with arrogance, not with ignorance, but with looking at policies and programs and looking at what we can implement as a people to ensure that all of us make it together. Not only one set of people could eat plantain, and some people got to watch other people eat plantain.
Mm-hmm. 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 Correct. Correct. Drita, final thoughts.
Sure, in closing, what I actually want to say is that when I look at everything all together, I have to acknowledge that the masses in this country, which I often say is the poor people in this country, persons that are not wealthy enough to do all they wish for themselves and their families. Those are the ones that are suffering under this administration. The guy that's selling his crabs singing there, he's one of those persons. He's out there and he's laboring in the hot sun, and he speaks his mind because well, at the end of the day he's left to deal with the harsh reality of even under the PPP. And I know a lot of times, even right now, you have this podcast, persons join from online, a lot of Guyanese who migrated under the PPP. They didn't migrate because they were living in a such a lovely country and they were enjoying the life. They migrated because they wanted a better life for themselves and their families. And we were hoping as a country and as a people that when with this whole with the whole newfound oil wealth and these resources that persons would be lining up to come back home. But what we are seeing right now is persons again are lining up to get out of here. Somebody called me and they said, and I want to share this as a final thought. They said that there was a girl, actually. She has a little baby, and herself and her husband, she said they had a very frank discussion, and they decided that this country is not getting any better, so they're going to leave.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when we hear these conversations as a member of parliament, as a representative of the people, it is that's not the direction we want our country to be in. We don't want the brain drain to start back, as it were,
Mhm.
under the PPP prior to 2050. We see it going nowhere but there. And I say that we need to put a full stop to this right now. We cannot afford for a country to be in a situation with oil resource, and yet people think that it is necessary for them to run away from this country. We cannot just accept news headlines from the government through their news agencies saying that, oh, the investors are coming, when the poor people would not even maybe working as the chauffeurs and the waitress, maybe very well cleaning in hotels they can't afford to stay in. And that would be the result if we do not get this administration out of office. So I say that our fight continues on a daily basis. You're here. I'm so happy that your spirit is not down, or you're more powered up to
Ready to go.
continue
Pick some
speaking out
power.
against. Correct. And we all need to have that mentality, because it's a tough uphill battle that we're
Yep.
fighting.
Yep.
But we cannot give up, because we have the citizens of this country that are depending on us. And I dare say, not only the persons that voted for us in the last election, but the person that even voted for the PPP and are suffering right now, themselves and their children. So we'll continue that fight, Sharon. And thank you once more for having me on your program today.
Fantastic. Member Parliament, Director of Finance, entrepreneur, philanthropist, Odessa Primus. Thank you so much, guys, for being part of our podcast today. Below the belt, who vex loose. Thank you, ladies, for all of your fantastic, wonderful insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon.
Folks, that's our podcast for today. That's our podcast. Why don't you give us a share before you go? Hundreds of you are watching us. Why don't you give us a share before you folks go? And also, we want to see those emojis as well, folks. You all know I got some legal battles ahead of me. We also gotta keep these programs going. We gotta keep our podcast going. We gotta keep our affiliate program in the ring going as well. And we got our website. We're updating daily to get you guys more valid and incredible information. Don't worry, propaganda them guys selling you. Don't worry, the propaganda them guys taking the taxpayers' money and formulating and trying to push down we throat. Right? Listen to the guy, Ramlal Rupchan, what he said there. Crabman. Right? Listen to what the anguish of the father in Mabaruma, and the anguish of the family with the dead mother and daughter in Bonasika, Esikebo. The unfiltered perspective that we have, folks. Help us to do more of that. We got several platforms available for you guys to contribute on a monthly basis to keep our work going here. Now we got legal fees to add to that. But we got to do what we got to do. At Cash App is a dollar sign or the dollar symbol. In the ring 592. That's our Cash App handle. The dollar sign in the ring 592. At PayPal, our PayPal address is in the ring 592 at gmail.com. In the ring 592 at gmail.com. That's our PayPal email address. In the ring 592 at gmail.com. The GT&T MMG system, that's the Guyanese Cash App. Our number there is 627-6963. 627-6963. You guys can reach us on WhatsApp on that number as well if you need any guidance. We're available via Western Union and MoneyGram. We know we got some old-fashioned folks. And they still like these formats, the traditional formats. MoneyGram and Western Union. We're available there as well. Guys, come on board. You all benefit from the program. You benefit from the information. Let me put we money where we mouth there. Or where we ears then where we eye there too. Guys. But it's our privilege, all in all, being here and supplying you guys, curating this information to you, bringing it live and direct to you guys. Thanks for joining us. We're going to see you guys right back here tomorrow in the ring, folks. And just by way of information, I would have you know that I reported to the Criminal Investigation Department this morning. All went well there. All went well. I am going to court on Monday the Diamond Magistrates Court, I think it is, the Diamond Magistrates Court. I'm supposed to be there for 8:30 on Monday. I crave your continued support, financially, your prayers. I I feel those prayers, those folks who've been praying for us. We feel those prayers, folks. Thank you for your overall immense, immense, immense support. You know, we continue to say that you guys are the backbone, the spine, the sinews, the guts, the heart of all our programs. You guys show up for us. You guys show up for our programs, and that means the world to us. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. We're going to be right back here this evening at 8 o'clock. If it's 8 o'clock, you know, we're in the ring. Let's fight. Thanks for joining our program. Below the belt. Below the belt. Who vex lose? If the trench crappers vex, the vex. If the jagabats vex, the vex. It's their face. Who vex lose? Thanks for joining us, guys. Stay safe. See you tonight. Stay safe, guys. Thanks for joining our podcast.